My name is Will Smith. I'm co-founder of National Links Trust. Welcome to our 9th episode of the Municipal Golf Network webinar series. Really exciting discussion today. Really looking forward to it. I'm joined by Pam Smith and Kurt White out in Denver, Colorado. They've assured me the golf season is in full swing and it really hasn't stopped, and the weather's beautiful out there. So it's really exciting to have them with us. And thank you, Pam and Kurt, for taking time out of your day to chat.
Of course.
Thank you.
Give you a little bit of background on Pam and Kurt. Pam is the Director of Agronomy for Denver Golf and was named the Superintendent of the Year in 2023 by the Colorado PGA Section. For the past 16 years, she has led the maintenance division for the city and county of Denver's 7 municipal golf courses. Pam holds a Bachelor of Science degree from Ball State, a JD from Western Michigan University, an LLM in Natural Resources and Environmental Law from the University of Denver, and is a licensed attorney in Michigan and Colorado. Pam is also a fielded member of the Douglas County Search and Rescue. Through Pam's leadership, Denver Golf has rapidly earned a reputation for innovation and exceeding expectations for turf conditions and environmental stewardship. Pam credits this success to a leadership style based on a culture of continual improvement, and the belief that we are infinite in our capacity to achieve more. Thanks, Pam, for joining us.
Thank you.
Kurt White. Kurt White is the partnerships coordinator for the First Tee Colorado Rocky Mountains. He currently lives in Denver with his wife Lisa and Shih Tzu Fez. He's a proud father of 3 grown boys who are now young men living in Central. Kurt loves the fact that he can incorporate his passion for the game of golf with his profession as the partnerships coordinator for the First Tee. Being a handicapable person, he uses his gift of encouragement to show kids that anyone can play the game and have fun. Whenever he's not working or playing at the golf course, you'll likely find him spending time outdoors with his family, often times at the lake fishing. Kurt, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Before we dive into sort of the meat of the subject, Pam, I read your background and I wanted to get it a little. How did you become a superintendent, or how the legal stuff is not something you see oftentimes when you're looking at the CV of a superintendent. Can you just tell us a little bit about your path to where you are now?
Wow, it's actually been, ironically, it looks convoluted, but it's really pretty linear. I started in golf when I was 15, started in golf maintenance. And at that time, it was just, that was your summer job. And when I went to college, I go, hey, I'm riding my bicycle around. I said, I need a job. So I went to college at Ball State, and I got a job there. And that was kind of the transition phase from when it became a summer job to more of a career interest. Was taken under the wing of the superintendent there, Tony Lambert, and kind of developed an affinity that this is not only a summer job, it's really addictive. Working on a golf course was just sheer joy, and the challenges it presented. So as I progressed this, I had a need. I wanted to be a lawyer from the get-go. So I always had that in the back of my mind. But my law school career took a pause. After college, I went all in on golf, joined a construction company early in my career, built a few golf courses, and enjoyed the big boom of the 90s building golf courses, and then kind of saw that slow down. And I go, maybe now's the time to reach out and get that law degree. So I did it part-time, and then finally quit. I had about a year pause in there where I went to law school, and then golf, I'm ready to go be a lawyer somewhere. I was going to go, do all the cool things that lawyers do, mid-career shift, and golf kind of pulled me back in with this Denver opportunity. And it's been an amazing opportunity. So I'm going to say, when I retire from golf, I'm going to practice law. It's still there. So hopefully that all made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly in terms of land use issues and all sorts of stuff, I think having a legal background probably, and especially with the scope of the operation that you run, is probably comes in handy every now and then.
100%. And out here, water law is huge. So that's why when I got out here, I go, I need to touch up on some Western law. And that's why I joined, went to Sturm College at DU and obtained that master's degree in environmental law.
Yeah. How big is the operation currently at Denver Golf, the agronomy operation?
Sure. So the agronomy operation, well, the entire portfolio of Denver Golf is 7 grass facilities, and then we have an aqua range mini golf called Aqua Golf. So I primarily oversee the maintenance operations of those turf facilities. It's about 1,000 acres total, spread throughout the Denver metro area, and we have one golf course, Evergreen, in Evergreen, Colorado. So kind of in the foothills there. You know, and I I don't know how much more you want to get in the details of the span of operation, but every golf course has a superintendent, assistant superintendent, except for Harvard. We're a little bit smaller out here. We have a superintendent that oversees that one. So pretty much a staff of 7 that I directly oversee. And then maybe about 150 employees down the chain of command.
As we discussed before we sort of opened it up, it's a 12-month season out there, and obviously pretty different between the winter and the summer in terms of temperatures. And how many rounds across the 7 courses?
Sure.
Do you know that number?
Yep, sure. I think 2023 we had about 350,000 18-hole rounds, and then I think about 135,000 9-hole rounds. So a lot. And yeah, that's a lot.
500,000
Yeah.
round golf.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. And overall we're probably going to crest 20 million in revenue this year.
that's
Huge.
great. And
Yeah.
and is that are those numbers the peak for your tenure there? I assume.
Correct. Yeah.
Revenue
We've been
Right.
thinking we can find peak, and it continues to grow. I don't know where they're squeezing everybody in, but it's a challenge. In fact, we're challenged to the point, and I'm sure other listeners can understand that we're being loved to death in some regards. So we're trying to maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Wear and tear on facilities, staffing shortages leads to wear and tear on employees. So we're trying to balance providing a good value, as municipal golf should, with the wear and tear on the facilities, and just how sustainable can we be ramping up with 98% capacity every day,
Yeah,
all
wow.
day, year round. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll circle back to that in a bit. But Kurt, can you share with us a little bit about your role at First Tee Colorado Rocky Mountains and what that program looks like?
Sure. Yeah, I joined the team here about 2.5 years ago as the partnerships coordinator. Just briefly before that, I had a 25-year career as a banker in the financial world. So golf was always kind of part of what I did on a day-to-day basis, because a lot of business gets done on the golf course. But as far as a career, I didn't know anything really about what the First Tee did as far as programming, how it was organized, or what they did, and the services that they provided to the kids, until I actually got this job. So I'm relatively new to this position, but quickly I found this organization is amazing. And the fact, probably the biggest reason, is because of the partnerships that have been created, almost all of them prior to me. We've grown to the 2nd largest chapter in the country, only behind Tampa when it comes to number of kids served on an annual basis, which I believe last year was about 11,000 kids. And a big reason that we can do that is because of some of the green grass locations that Pam is referring to. We do programming at almost all of those locations. And there are some junior courses at some of those locations. The relationship is such that it's available to us always. So yeah.
So across the Denver metro area, how many courses are you guys up in?
I think 5.
Okay.
Yeah, we would struggle doing programming at Aqua Golf, for example. Because
you guys have programs at non-municipal golf courses, I guess?
We do. We have other partnerships, and definitely the other one very much worth mentioning is our sister city here, Aurora, Colorado. We've got a great partnership with City of Aurora, where we have 5 partner on-course locations where we do programming, mostly in the summer.
Yeah,
at those
11,000.
locations.
That's a great number. I mean, that's absolutely
Yep.
incredible.
And
So,
and I shouldn't also worth mentioning too, Eagle County, which is out in the Vale area. There's 3 courses out there that we do programming at too.
got it.
So all of these lend to that ability to be able to serve that many kids on an annual basis.
Great. Pam, as we covered in your intro, you've helped Denver Golf establish a reputation for innovation and exceeding expectations with regards to turf conditions and environmental stewardship. Can you tell us about your sustainability philosophy and the motivation that drives you to exceed expectations for your municipally run golf course?
Sure, and I probably need to put it in relationship. The Denver golf courses have been here a lot longer than any of us have been alive. So my existence in this timeline is a blip in 130 years. Let's say Overland has been here 130 years. So when it comes to sustainability, I love to be a part of that conversation and take some credit for where we are today with it. But man, municipal golf in general is there's been a lot of generational gifts over the years of people managing golf courses to make them sustainable. So the evolution and the role that I play now is where are we modernizing and where are we taking Denver golf to make it sustainable for the next 100 years. So I totally appreciate being a part of that, and also want to share with you the humility that all of us are here for a short time, and we're stewards for a little bit. So our role in sustainability is, what do we take with what we've been given, and how do we prepare it for the future so that future generations can take care of it? So we're putting the organization in a better position than when we found it. My philosophy on sustainability is just that. It's present day, but how are we structuring ourselves to make sure that we're around for the long term? And some of that is changing the workplace culture. Municipal golf, and in my history, it was getting by. Sometimes it was underfunded. It was not as progressive as it could have been. And I say that in a general sense. I don't mean to take away from municipal golf. It's a challenge sometimes because it's a part of the government, structure. And now that golf went big boom over the last 20, 30 years, I think municipal golf is a huge player when it comes to providing a quality product. So, I know it's a long answer to it's a big one to wrap your arms around, but the basis of what we do here and to be sustainable is excellent turf conditions, excellent staffing, supporting that staffing, providing them the resources they need to move us forward. And the more we develop that workplace culture of, hey, we're not going to rest on a good day's job or an excellent year or a great project. That's just the baseline for what are we doing next. So hopefully that answers your question there.
Yeah, absolutely. And your 98% capacity, you talked about it, the wear and tear, right? I mean, it's sort of, it's interesting dichotomy, right? During the downtimes, there aren't funds to invest in the properties, and when it's booming, there may be funds, but there's not time, right? So so you're in this sort of catch-22 here. So it seems like the way you've decided to tackle those things is to control the things you can control, right? Which is workplace culture and stuff like that, because that's what you have. That's what you can control.
Correct. Well said. Yeah.
Well, I know Andrew's done a lot of prep on this, and so he mentioned to me your theory on the triple bottom line. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you go about trying to achieve that?
Absolutely. And I need to give credit to whoever invented that. It wasn't my own invention. It was an economic philosopher, I think, over in Britain, came up with this triple bottom line, but it is stood the test of time, and it's brilliant. It's, how do we make our decisions? And there's so many far-reaching mandates. There's so many things we can say, this is a great idea, but it's the low-hanging fruit. And the triple bottom line gives you, when you make a decision, and I'm trying to think of the oil testing, for example, hits the triple bottom line. So in our maintenance strategy, the oil testing came about because the triple bottom line, I'll get it quick, is it socially beneficial? Is it economically beneficial? And is it environmentally beneficial? I mean, and you can probably massage those a couple different directions for your particular use, but that triple bottom line is like when you have an initiative that hits on all those three legs, you're winning, because so many environmental initiatives will cost you money. It will set you back financially. So if you can pick an environmental initiative, like saving oil, dropping labor costs, and then not having so much waste oil go into the recycling stream, that hits the triple bottom line. So a lot of our initiatives, we do kind of put in that framework of, how best does that serve us as an organization? And every now and again, we will not hit the triple bottom line because it's just a darn good initiative. It's just something we need to be doing as municipal golf. And adaptive golf is one of those things as well. It may not hit the triple bottom line, but it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to transition to that here shortly, but I do want to sort of ask about any other programs that you've initiated with Denver Golf and any challenges you faced in implementing them. And also if there were any sort of unforeseen benefits or outcomes that you didn't foresee when you started to implement that
Sure.
program.
A lot of what we've been doing over the last, 15 to 20 years here is refining our metrics. So I'm going to talk about water conservation. And I came from the Midwest where water conservation really wasn't a paramount priority. And when you're out here in the Western world, water conservation is everything. It is scarce, it is expensive, and you don't have the luxury of wasting water. So one of the things we do is look at the metrics is how are we managing our water? And then what's the metrics that we're going to use to measure the success or failure of that? And over the years, I've developed some metrics, and it's not static. I'd like to think, we were kind of taught early on, it's black and white, data is black and white. But when it comes to measuring water, we first started with gallons. How many gallons do you use a year per square foot, right? Anybody can relate to that. And is it a good year or a bad year? Did we use 100,000 gallons more, 1,000,000 gallons less? But then Mother Nature throws in the curveball that, hey, we rained a lot this year, so it's going to throw your metrics way off. We had a drought, it's going to throw your metrics way off. So then we changed our strategy and measured it with evapotranspiration. So we got a lot more precise on like, hey, are we successful with water management in relationship to the weather? So that was something that even in the last 5 years we started to refine. And then a curveball gets thrown in, and that metric isn't always pure, but you continue to just say, hey, where are we at and how can we get better with how this looks? Some of the other things we're working on currently, and I would encourage everyone to do it, whether it's a mandate or not, is the electrification of 2-cycle power equipment. We were being nudged this way, but Denver Golf, we've been working on trying out 2-cycle power equipment. We're talking about chainsaws, string trimmers, backpack blowers, some of the small handheld, because those are the worst polluters that we have. And living in Denver, the metro area, is rarely in air quality attainment. And so, as a community, as a region, we're looking at how do we fix this? And Denver Golf is a big part of that, in that we're transitioning those 2-cycle gas powered equipment items into electric. And I would encourage, even if you're not in an area that has air quality issues, to really consider that, because this electric equipment does the job. It's actually streamlined our operations. And the other benefits, as you asked, is that we're not carrying around gas cans in back of our golf carts anymore. So a lot of wins on those fronts. So those are just some of the things we've been working on over the years. And I'm excited about what the future brings. We have GPS technology on some of our sprayers. And we're just going to continue to grow and develop as the technology does. We're open to that. And then you can't always consume all the technology that's out there. So we do what we can with the time we have.
Real quick, can you just talk a little bit about your water quality monitoring and what you found over
Oh,
time?
Sure.
Yeah.
I can say, like, I've never had an original idea, I mean, they teach us when we're kids, you can't cheat, you can't copy, right? But as adults, I'm going to covet, or I'm going to learn from everyone else's experiences. And I had a great experience up in Vail at their municipal golf course when I did a site visit for Audubon and helped, assisted them in their recertification process as an auditor. And one of the things I learned from Vail is, they are in a water district that is always monitoring every element of their stream because it's their public drinking supply, right? And then I learned from them that at times the water quality entering the golf course can actually be worse than when it leaves. So what that golf course showed me in that experience is the golf course actually improves water quality of a mountain stream. That's amazing. So why can't Denver do that, right? So we have done some water quality testing of the water that moves from our golf course from in and out, and testing it, and found that from time to time, it's tiny, especially City Park Golf Course. It's a tiny change, but I'm here to tell you the golf course has actually improved the water coming from the golf course into when the time it leaves. And that's through the buffers, the stream sedimentation out, letting particulates drop out. And it just overall cleans the water because of the organic material or the vegetation that's helping clean it. So
It's not a story that's often told when it comes to golf. So
yeah, that we actually can be cleaning up the waters. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good one to tell. So, so now that we've covered your a little bit of your philosophy on sustainability, what new community centric initiatives are you focusing on these days, and what sparked your interest in pursuing this new passion? And
Oh yeah,
it's sort of a leading question here. So
yeah, so now we're going to get really excited here because I don't want to say I'm not excited about all of the environmental things I've done in my career, and we've done at Denver Golf, but there's a point in time when it becomes workplace culture, and I feel like the team that we have here, they're established, they know the parameters, they know what we need to do as managing turf and to be environmental stewards. And I'm like, what, I don't want to say what's next, but what are the things can we offer as municipal golf? And I stumbled upon, and there's a little story behind it, we might get to it or not, but I stumbled across the fact that I thought we had adaptive golf covered. We had solo rider golf carts. We had them for years sitting in the basement. We got this covered. And I reached out to somebody who showed an interest in playing golf, and who needed adaptive equipment. And she said, yeah, that's no fun to play on those carts. In fact, they're harmful to some folks with certain disabilities. And I'm like, what? And so here I thought I was like a +1 on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm a +1 in the adaptive golf world, right? Now all of a sudden I realize I'm like a -2 on my score, right? I don't even know what I don't know. So I got excited because this was a challenge. Why aren't we good at this? And how can we do better? And what I don't know doesn't intimidate me. It kind of gets me going. And so I learned everything I could about adaptive golf. So I'm going to give myself a +1 score again on the knowledge scale. And there's so much more to learn. But just this week, and this was like a year and a half ago, I learned about that we're not good on adaptive golf in Denver. We're not even close to good. And now I'm here to tell you that as of last week, we just received our 4 brand new Paragolfer golf carts. So they're stand up and play golf carts. And there's a variety of folks that need to use a solo rider, or they use the Verticat. Two different adaptive pieces of equipment. But so excited, we got our 4 in. Our director of golf funded them 100%, no grants, no other support. We're all in. Denver Golf's in. It was like almost $130,000 investment. So we're going to roll that out in the next couple of weeks. And we don't have an adaptive golf program, but we have the equipment, and we're going to steamroll our way through this. And hopefully by the time I leave Denver Golf, this is a well-established program with the help of folks like Kurt and all the other partners that I've been developing along the way. Sorry, but you get me excited about that.
Well, Kurt, can you let's bring you back in, and sorry you've been on the sidelines here for a bit, but
Oh no, I love listening to Pam.
Yeah, no, it's great stuff. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey in golf, and how you came to kind of be Pam's a little bit guide in this journey?
Sure. Well, and I think that to start off, as I'm sitting here looking, the only people in this room or on this webinar today that have met me or heard some of my story is, Pam. I've been fortunate to meet her one-on-one. But for a lot of what I'm going to share with you to make sense, you need to understand that, for all of you that can see, this is my one and only arm. And obviously that hand is not your typical hand. A lot of the kids here at First Tee think it looks more like a foot. But it's important for all of our listeners and people watching this today to understand, you mentioned I'm a handicapable golfer, but I was born this way. I was born with my physical disabilities. And so I think it's important to note then that, I don't know any differently. I'm just the way I am. I'm Kurt. So when Pam approached me and was sharing, her obvious passion, as she alluded to, with, you know, this idea of accessible or adaptable golf, and gee, Kurt, there's some conversations. Would you be willing to kind of join my group and see where we can go with this? I think, and maybe I'm assuming, but Pam may have been thinking, well, he should know, he's an expert. When in fact, what I'd like to share is I'm learning just as much through this process as all of you are. These are many times after a conversation, I walk away with a revelation. Oh, gee, I never thought of it that way. So that up front, I just want everybody to understand that, even though I was born this way, I don't know any differently. I love the game of golf. I can't claim to be the expert, but I certainly am happy and I appreciate the opportunity to perform more of like being an advocate. That makes sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So where did your love for golf come from, and how did you get in the game?
Yeah, that's as I mentioned, and I was in banking for 25 years, and my grandfather and father were also both bankers. And I know it's kind of a joke, but bankers' hours. I'm going to be the first one to admit, at least in my experience, yeah, those are real. It's not a joke. Bankers spend a lot of time on the golf course, and I saw that through my dad and grandpa. As far as picking up the game, the story I always like to share is, my dad spent a lot of time on the course, and I think even today still feels he's one round away from joining the tour. But through his learning process, he thought, probably was told by somebody, he's naturally right-handed, does everything right-handed. But have you ever tried swinging the club left-handed? Give it a whirl, see what happens. He's an athlete, so apparently that was his choice. Lucky for me, it did not pan out the way he had hoped. And so it wasn't much longer after he tried those left-handed clubs that I found him propped up in the back corner of the garage gathering dust. That's the story I like to share with, I was probably 8 or 9 years old when that happened. Picked up one of the clubs out of the bag and started hitting the ball out in the yard, and the rest is history.
It's great. It's great. Well, Pam and Kurt, I guess I can ask both of you guys, as you guys sort of went down this journey to learn more about adaptive golf, what did you, Pam, you touched on some, but what were some of your misunderstandings, and what have you learned? And what have you learned about adaptive athletes in general?
Oh, right. Wow. Whew. I've got to give Kurt credit here. One of the first things he told me about when we started embarking on this together, he said, don't make assumptions. And that is that you got to bring that every time you come to the table with, what are we doing next? How are we doing it? And when you're engaging with somebody who has an adaptive golf need, don't make any assumptions. Let them lead the way. Let them explore. It's not even letting them. It's just, you do that with anybody, right? And Kirk was instrumental in helping me just give people space. I don't know that I do that well, but I do get a little excited. But Kirk, that was all you, man. So some of the other things I learned is everybody has information. Collectively, you can probably, even if you're clueless as I was, reach out to. We've got Craig Hospital. We've got Kurt in-house. We've got other folks that I have been able to network and meet throughout the way, that I'm starting to get a better handle on things. I'm starting to make these incremental changes that I say will lead to big, huge shifts for Denver golf and accessibility. So that's pretty much it. Don't make assumptions and get a lot of help.
Yeah, and not to, Pam, you're stealing some of my thunder, but definitely one of the takeaways from my talk here today is exactly that, to not assume. But for me, back to kind of learning and discovering that maybe I can be a good advocate in these conversations. You know, I started learning because this is also a learning process, and discovered, you know, the ADA, that it passed as recently as 1990. So it's relatively new when we're looking at the overall scheme of things. ADA compliance and the accessible carts that Pam is mentioning. And Pam, please, no disrespect, congratulations on all your legal pursuits. But, you know, in my opinion, I believe that, you know, we live in a kind of a litigious society that demands liability protections. And so I think the first things that come up when we have these discussions are exactly that. Are we in compliance with ADA? And how many solo riders are in the basement? So often I feel that that's where the conversation stops. And although those things are vitally important, there's so much more to consider. And that's why I'm so happy that Pam asked me to be a part of this group, because I think we're teaching each other things that we didn't even know.
And if you don't mind me following up, Kurt, you really hit the nail on the head with that. So many folks stop at, I've met the basis of ADA. I'm good. I'm like dropping out of here. That's the bottom. That's the basement level of being okay. And I think when the rules and regs came out, and there was a bunch of it about golf, and, you know, there's accessibility on the first tee, and there's curb cuts, and there are some black and white rules. That's really a low bar. And I think as municipal golf in general, we can do so much better. And then that fear factor kicks in. Kirk, you touched on it about litigation and liability. And I'll give you an example of the team that we pulled in. And we kicked around liability on this adaptive cart business, because I'm personally, the lawyer in me, and my kid will say, you always think worst case. I'm like, that's kind of my job, right? I always read the worst case. What happens when you put somebody in this thing and they hit a curb, and it, you know, I mean, ooh, all the nightmare scenarios, right? And we went around this liability issue, and we went the full gamut of it. We're going to have this liability document. We're going to have people sign it. We went to I'm going to tell you, we went to our attorney, our ADA person, risk management. And I even looked up another organization that does this, and they have a liability form. And really who zeroed us back in was the director of golf, Scott Redlake. And he says, no more barriers. Like, we can't treat folks different because they're using a different kind of golf cart, and the liability waiver went away. We have like a blanket general one. It's going to apply to everybody. So that fear that you have, if you embark on something like this, I think if you talk to the folks who really want to use this, Kirk, you said it, like, I think most people want to play golf. They don't want to litigate, right?
Exactly.
So don't let that fear of litigation or fear of whatever you're not doing right be a problem. I think if people see you're doing good things and making progress, they're gonna get on your bandwagon and not be opposed to you.
Yeah. And as I alluded to, don't let that be where the conversation stops. Don't check the box and say we're good, as Pam alluded to. Because, you know, what I want to impress upon you is, you know, when we're talking about accessible golf and making the game more accessible to include as many people as we can, you know, that's the more important thing that we want to convey to people. Is we're in the business of building relationships. We want people to come to our facilities and have an enjoyable experience. And when you're looking at, you know, well, who are these people? I think as time goes on, as a lot of these things, as the population grows older, you know, that demographic, when it comes to the game of golf, is changing also. Just a little bit as far as what do I mean by that? You know, if you're gonna just talk, okay, we're making the accessibility accommodations to people with disabilities. Well, who are those people? According to some stats that you read, believe it or not, people with disabilities are the largest minority group in the country. I'm being, you know, I can claim to be one of them. What's probably one of the biggest things I want to do as being one of those people is I want to be recognized as a contributor to society, just the same as everybody else. So what does that mean? I can include myself in this group. I have a family. I have 3 grown kids. I have a career. I have, now more specifically to this audience, a love for the game of golf. I don't have a lot of free time, but when I do, I want to enjoy the game and I have money to spend to participate in it. Add to that, back to the aging population and who are these people that you guys are targeting to come to your courses. The boomers that are now in their 70s and even some approaching 80, they still want to play golf. They've been playing golf all their lives. One thing I think to consider as you look at some of these things with the accessibility is they're still there to spend money. They still want to enjoy the game, but for example, walking the course and having that as the only option, that maybe that's not going to be reasonable as current as today, or at least within the next few years. Personally, then, as far as my experience of the people that we serve and to make this game as inclusive as possible, my platform here at the First Tee allows me to present all of these things to kids. And we start them as young as 4 years old, all the way up through high school. And the cool thing about that, back to my comment, is we want to include all kids, regardless of their level of ability. And we don't approach it with, what kind of equipment do we want to make sure we have to bring to the course. We start out by building that relationship with the individual and finding out what it is, what do they need from us that'll make their day better. So I feel privileged, and I know I've been kind of going on here, Will, but I have an opportunity as the partnership coordinator here to have a platform to talk about accessibility issues from 4 years old through the First Tee program all the way up to the boomers in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Well, Kurt, I really appreciate your perspective, and it's not a perspective that all of us readily have, and so it's really great to hear. With your work with First Tee, I mean, what can you see the impact that you're having? Do you see people's perceptions changing, kids' perceptions changing? Because it's a formative time, but it's not easy, right? This is not an easy topic. That we're talking about.
Right. Oh yeah, just in my time here, Will, which again has been 2.5 years, I've made some connections, Pam included. I've got a good partnership with Denver Adaptive Rec, and I've been charged myself here as part of my job responsibility to seek out the people with disabilities that may not have known that golf is even an option. So to answer your question specifically, my feeling is that yes, the support is there, undoubtedly. What actions need to be taken, that's some of the things that we're discussing here today. And the only thing I can answer to for sure that my personal feeling is I'm also, a level 1 instructor and a coach. And so I have the privilege of going out and doing some of the programming. And just for an example, yesterday we were at a school that is made up of entirely neurodivergent kids. My golfer's name was Donovan. He's 14 years old, and he just was tickled to death that we were both lefties. My point being is, if I can change one kid's perspective, it's a success. And I feel and I see that more and more every day.
It's great. It's great. I have a question here, which I wrote down. What should municipal golf operators look at their facilities that would easily make their courses more accessible for people with disabilities? I'm going to sort of cross out the word easy in that question, because from what we've heard from you and from Pam, it's not easy. And it's not just don't do the easy things to make it so that you're compliant or anything like that. But what are some of the things that people can have those first steps to really get rolling? Because I think there'll be a lot of stakeholders, a lot of operators who will either on or will see this later on that will have that question. So what would your recommendations be?
Mhm.
Well, oh, go ahead, Kurt.
I was just gonna respond, the general, nothing worth having is easy.
Yeah.
So we need to go in with the premise that, yeah, there may be some work involved, but I do think, and another thing I wanted to share, and this would probably be my second takeaway that I wanted to make sure you all heard, is when you're thinking of your facility and what can I do, a lot of times the question is posed in what can we do to include as many people to come here and play our course. The differentiation I want you to think about is that word play. And I want you to think about it more in the terms of what can we do at our location to include as many people to come enjoy the experience. Think about that, and how does that change your perception, or what kind of questions you're going to start asking yourself? Because quite frankly, as much as I love playing golf, and I even golf competitively back in the day, I'm the more so the reason I'm going to the course is to have fun and to enjoy the experience. I'm not there to qualify for the US Open. I know that there's a lot of people that are, and I think based on experience and what the business model is drawn up to is to cater to those type of people. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I would just encourage you to think of it more so as, opening up the accessibility of my locations so that person can enjoy the experience, not shoot the lowest score. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Pam, some thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in that we're in that situation right now as a golf organization that has some brand new facilities that are very well compliant with ADA requirements, and even some of those, even that one facility, as we learned, has some opportunities that we could have done differently in the design phase. But I'm going to keep it real basic. One of the best resources that I've been able to rely on to kind of audit our facilities, and as I go around, look around and see how well we're doing, is try out the National Alliance for Accessible Golf. They have a wealth of information. They have education like on demand that is really quite good for specifically for golf courses. So I give them a huge shout out. Go there. It's free of charge. Get yourself educated, get your team educated, and utilize that free resource. Take a look at your facility. What is readily accessible? Is it bathroom remodels? Is it doors with automatic openers? Is it creating, when you remodel, be thoughtful when you remodel. It doesn't cost you anymore to have a counter that is accessible to the right height, right? And I don't know what that height is 36 inches, I don't know. But when you do those remodels, be thoughtful of how can I make this more accessible and inclusive for folks of all walks of life. And I think those are just the very basic, simple things. And then create maybe how do you create a need? How do you create that we should be doing this vibe in your workplace? And I think sometimes it's inviting people in to just test out your facility and give feedback. Inviting folks that could give you that feedback, and it's not destructive, it's constructive. And how can we do better? And in golf, have golf events. Just start bringing people in and start talking and having the conversation. Create some excitement around it. And I will tell you this: when you have an adaptive golfer, take a shot. It's amazing. It really is. It gives you more back than you're given.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kurt.
I was just going to echo Pam, the shout out to Dave Barton at the National Alliance. Yeah, please do check him out and his organization. Pam connected me with him He has what he calls the Golf Access and Inclusion Network, or GAIN. I'm now privileged to say I'm also included on his speakers bureau, but it's just a wealth of information that I'm sure you're going to find some answers to some questions that you have simply by seeing what's out there. And if not, I can guarantee you he'd be happy to talk to you. And to shift that too, I've leaned on him a little bit, as Pam was alluding to. We only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. And the word that comes to mind there is ignorance. And a lot of people, when they use that word, it's captioned in negativity as a negative word. Well, it's, in my mind, not really. It's simply that we only know what we know. Therefore, open up our minds to education, learn more. If there's something that we're wanting to achieve, we have to study about it. And I've leaned on Dave for example, I wanted to include, just to show that I'm also pursuing and to improve my ignorance on things. As of January of 23, the USGA did provide a rule, which is Rule 25, that specifically addresses the definition of what is a person with a disability. And just real quick, the four classifications are players who are blind, players who are amputees, players who use assistive mobility devices, and players with intellectual disabilities. When I read that last one, I just remind you, players with intellectual disabilities. Although I showed you my hand, I'm short stature. I'm only 4'6". Visually, it's pretty easy to see I'm challenged. I have something going on, but that's not always going to be the case. When it comes to defining somebody, a person with a disability, we need to keep that in mind. And then part of that Rule 25, I thought it's also important to mention here too, that assessment on whether that person is disabled or not, it's not up to a committee or a specific group of people to make that assessment. As a matter of fact, the rule states it's based on the impact that a player's impairments have on their ability to play golf, rather than being a determination of whether someone is disabled. So my point in including all of that is to encourage all of you there's tons of resources out there, utilize them. When this is over, feel free to contact me. I'm sure Will or Jeff or somebody will share my contact. Let's have these conversations and let's all learn as much as we can.
I really appreciate that, Kurt. I got sort of a final question or line of discussion, and then maybe we can open it up to some quick Q&A if there are any. You mentioned the USGA and Rule 25. Clearly, it's been a priority, or there's been a lot more visibility. The USGA has brought adaptive golf to the forefront with their adaptive open. And what does that mean to you as a lifelong golfer?
Oh, to me, it's hope. To me, it's also a challenge. I'd love to participate in one of those events. And hopefully within the next couple of years, I'll be able to share that I did compete in one of those events. But it means, where does that hope come from? For me, it's golf has been a game that I've been passionate about. I've loved to play since I was a kid. As I've learned and as I've gotten older, and as this whole idea of accessibility, learning that maybe, I need to count myself lucky. Why? Because the people at the top, the USGA, the PGA, the people that are making the decisions and the rules, and which direction is this game going to go, it's obvious that they're taking all these things into consideration and giving it much more attention than they did even 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's certainly, as a golfer and someone who cares about the game, and trying to make it as inclusive and accessible to everybody. The work the USGA is doing on this front is something that I think we all be proud of. So I know there's a lot lot of work to be done going forward, but it's a good start. It's a good start. So, I've opened it up. I don't know if there's any questions from those watching, but happy to read them out to Pam and Kurt. If you want to type them in the chat, we can do them, and I'll give it a minute or two. And Pam, are there things that you're doing from a maintenance point of view that are more geared towards adaptive golfers? Have you started to implement that at some of your courses?
Yeah, my poor team. When I found out that maintenance not on the golf course, no, not that you would think. Golf course, play it as it lies. Design in the future, we may have more considerations, but on the day to day, our biggest push in maintenance is to make sure our solo riders and now our verticats are going to be in tip top shape and available for use all the time, anytime, because so often they got a little bit forgotten if they weren't used. So we're very vigilant every 2 weeks, checking out our solo riders in particular, because they're older and they're a little more high maintenance. So yeah, there's a lift there, and it's a lot of effort, and they're doing a great job of it.
Great. Well, I don't see. Oh, sorry, I just had a question come in. Sorry. This is from Andrea Guarnieri. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly.
Gennari.
Gennari. It sounds like you might know her.
Yeah, hi, Andrea.
Kurt, can you tell people how you discovered that what adaptations you needed to play golf? This helps to let everyone know it is a personal experience that might not be the same for everyone and every disability.
Sure, yeah. My personal experience, what I can answer to, and trust me when I say my golf game even today is always evolving. And,
like all of us,
yes, but maybe the adaptations, the equipment is just a little bit different. And
Sure.
for me specifically, that I think that, to Andrea's point, probably the biggest game changer that I discovered back when I was younger and learning, when I got to the point where I could actually hit the ball a decent distance, I needed to improve my grip, because if I didn't, that club was going to go helicoptering through the air and force any of my playing companions to wear helmets. And golf is not a sport where we will wear helmets. So through trial and error, I designed, through help again with Grandpa and Dad, a strap that I used to strap the club to my arm to improve that grip and to prevent it from hurling through the air when I swing.
Yeah.
So, Andrea, I guess the point being, it's unique to each person based on what their need is, and it seems like we're always trying to tweak it, just like the able-bodied golfers are trying to tweak their equipment to maximize its impact.
Another question from Pamela Wyatt. How can the general golfing public help create awareness and support for adaptive golf here in Denver? But I would say that's not just in Denver, but throughout the country.
Pamela, let's connect. If you're interested, let's connect. But in a general sense, I have seen golfers be incredibly gracious and supportive to adaptive golfers on the golf course. It's not giving high fives. It's not a round of applause. It's let's make it normal. Let's make adaptive golf an everyday occurrence. And I think the golfing community can help with that. Kirk, what do you got?
Well, just specific examples, how can they show support, show up to our events, ask about them. We're creating them and holding them as we speak. We've got one coming up here at City Park on May 6th. So just, show your support by becoming interested in what it is that we're doing and what we have to say. Another, this was just an idea that popped into my head, and I don't know, if it's even possible, but, consider the able-bodied golfers out there, consider having a person with a disability ride along with you for the day. Build that relationship, make that connection. I guarantee you, if you consider doing something like that, and it's mutual. I mean, the person with the disability has to understand too that they're there for the ride along, they're there for the experience, but what are the potential opportunities down the road after this connection is made? I think that would be a huge sign of support, and help move this needle even further.
Mhm. And I will say, I do have a particular need, Pamela. It is custom fitted clubs. We need to get a resource so that people, I'm just not handing them a random club that may or may not fit. I really want to drive this custom fitted club so folks can enjoy the game, because it really is a game changer to have the right club.
Mhm.
We just got a comment from one of our longtime supporters, Grant Whitney. He says Kurt and Pam should attend the U.S. Adaptive Open in Kansas this summer. So I don't know if that's on your radar, but Grant wants to suggest that you guys go. So
Well, thank you for the suggestion. Yeah, and I did look up the details on that.
great. Well, Pam, Kurt, I think it's been a really mind-opening discussion, and I can't thank you guys enough for taking time out of your schedules to join us. We really appreciate it. So on behalf of all of National Links Trust and our supporters, thank you for being here with us today.